My husband, a 30-year-old man, and I, a 28-year-old woman, have been together for 6 years and married for 4, with 2 kids, a 3-year-old daughter and a 1-year-old daughter. My husband is everything to me. He's amazing in every way, and I couldn't possibly ask for a better husband and father for our daughters and future children. I love this man more than anything, and my absolute worst fear is losing him. He works an office job, but also occasionally teaches a weekend morning yoga and meditation class at the gym he goes to. 2 months ago, a woman who is a fitness influencer with a following of about 20,000 recently started regularly attending his classes and asked to take a selfie, saying that she wanted to give my husband and the gym a shout out for organizing the yoga classes. She took 3 selfies of the 2 of them, and in the last one, she randomly kissed my husband on the cheek. And my husband made it clear that he had no interest in her. My husband told me what happened that very day, and he never followed her back or gave her his number, and I felt thankful and happy that my husband was honest and upfront with me about someone else testing the waters with him and him shutting her down. A few days later, this woman somehow found my social media and requested to follow me, which I denied. I kept a close eye on her social media for a little while, and a few days after that, she changed her profile picture to one of the selfies of her and my husband. I randomly showed up to my husband's next yoga classes, and afterwards I gave her a piece of my mind to leave my husband and me alone. Her profile picture went back to what it was before, and I thought it was the end of that. I kept showing up to my husband's yoga classes, and she was always there too, and she would try to make small talk, but I mostly ignored her until she eventually apologized and admitted she was out of line. Over the next few weeks, we became okay and somewhat friends, despite my husband telling me to not get close with or trust her. Over this past weekend, I got a text from her telling me that she felt guilty about hiding the truth and sent me several screen recordings worth of messages between her and my husband, talking badly about me, the lies he would tell me, plans to hook up, and more. It all seemed real, and there was no way I could have known it was all fake, especially since she had been very friendly to me in the past few weeks. I confronted my husband, and he denied it all, and I didn't believe him. I accused him of deleting the messages from his phone. I said terrible things to him and told him to leave our home and never speak to me again. I told him that we were done and that I would be filing for divorce, and he would never see our daughters again. I got on a call with her to get all the details, and I caught her in a lie, and I pressed her about it, and she confessed it was all a lie, and she broke down and said she just wanted my husband. I immediately called my husband and begged him to come home and apologized for everything I did and said to him. Today, he came home after work and played with our daughters for a little while, and left again once they were in bed. He's been ignoring me almost completely, and he's fully right to do so. I know I made several mistakes. Becoming her friend despite my husband telling me not to, trusting her screen recordings, not trusting my husband's love and loyalty to me, and kicking him out of our home. It's all my fault. I cried myself to sleep last night, and tonight won't be any different. I can't do this without him. He's my everything, and I feel like I've lost him. I know he will be back tomorrow after work, and that will be my best chance to try talking and apologizing to him. What can I do to fix this and earn my husband's trust back? I have thought of everything from writing him a letter telling him how sorry I am and how much I love and admire him, to forcing a hug, cooking his favorite dish, or suggesting some sort of counseling for us, but I don't know what to actually do. Now for a few comments before the update. Comment 1. I think it's very disturbing that you threatened to never allow him to see his kids again. That probably makes things 10 times worse for you. That might be the hardest thing for him to get over, because it might change the way he sees you. I mean, I have heard stories of women who made that threat to good men, and those women were always beyond awful. You put yourself in their company by making that threat, even if you didn't do as many bad actions as they did. The other issue is that you proved you trusted and respected this woman, whom you knew for 2 months, more than your husband and how he felt. Your husband showed you respect, and in return, you spit in his face. Do what you feel led to when he comes back, but my post is to make you more mindful of how severe your actions were. Comment 2. I'm not sure you can. You can try, but you were so quick to believe her over your husband, who was very clear that he was not interested in her. You went nuclear. You need to figure out why you believed this woman, especially when your husband told you to avoid her. You need therapy and to make a sincere apology, and then you need to shut up and listen to your husband. This entire post is all about you and how you feel. Imagine how he feels, maybe. Now for the update. A couple of days went by after the whole confrontation with my husband. Never thought I'd be in this kind of mess. I woke up that morning and decided to write him a letter. I poured my heart into it. I basically told him how sorry I was, like really sorry, and that I messed up big time, and I don't blame him if he hates me. I just wanted him to know that I love him, and I'm willing to do whatever it takes to fix this. I also told him that I understand if he needs time. Then I had this idea to cook his favorite meal, chicken Alfredo, for dinner that night. It's like his ultimate comfort food, and I thought maybe it could help us reconnect. So I had this plan in my head, and I was hoping it would work out. I picked up our daughters from school, and they were super excited to see me. They had no idea what was going on, thank goodness. They were just happy to be home. I mean, who doesn't love a little chaos after school? So we got home, and I started preparing the meal while the girls played in the living room. They were making this huge mess with their toys, but honestly, I didn't care. I was just trying to create a nice atmosphere for dinner, you know? My husband got home late that night. He looked so tired and distant, like he hadn't even seen the sun in days. I could see that he was struggling with everything that happened, and so was I. I set the table with these cute little candles, trying to make it cozy and inviting. I thought maybe a little ambiance could help us talk, but honestly, I knew it was a long shot. He barely acknowledged me when he walked in, just gave me a nod and headed straight to the couch. I mean, ouch. Talk about a mood unalived. I got the food ready and served it up, but he barely touched his plate. The girls were so excited about dinner and tried to talk to him about their day, but he was just glued to his phone. After dinner, I thought maybe we could have a conversation, but he shut me down so fast. I felt this frustration building up inside me, but I didn't want to push him. So I decided to give him some space and just did the dishes. I figured cleaning up would be a good distraction. Later that week, we went to a birthday party for one of our daughter's friends. It was supposed to be a fun time, but it turned out to be a mess. Guess who showed up? The influencer. She just walked in, mingling with all the other parents. I couldn't believe it. I had to keep my cool, though. I couldn't let her get to me. So I approached her, and she made this comment about how my husband was always so fun-loving. Like, seriously? I forced a smile and changed the subject to our daughters. I couldn't even deal with her nonsense. I just wanted to get through the party without losing my mind. A few days after that, I found a text message on my husband's phone from the influencer. It was an invitation to a private yoga session, asking him to bring his wife. I was so done at this point. I confronted him, demanding to know why he didn't tell me. He acted all innocent, saying it was just for fun, and he didn't want to upset me more. I just couldn't deal with this anymore. I decided to contact the influencer and arrange to meet for coffee. I pretended like I wanted to be friends. I figured if she thought I was on her side, she'd let her guard down. During the meeting, she was all nice and apologetic about the misunderstanding. I kept an eye on her, though. There were so many inconsistencies in her story. I subtly asked about my husband, acting all interested in their yoga classes. I mean, I had to play the role, right? Then she casually mentioned how she enjoyed the attention from married men. I was like, wow, this girl is something else. After our coffee date, I left with a plan. I was going to document their interactions. I knew I needed proof to show my husband. The following week, I attended another yoga class with my husband. It was so awkward, but I had to do it. I discreetly recorded snippets of the influencer's interactions with other guys in the class. It was eye-opening. After the class, I shared the recordings with a few close family members. They were shocked. My sister was like, "You need to confront this girl publicly." So I organized a small gathering with some friends and invited the influencer without revealing my intentions. At the gathering, I played the recordings on my phone for everyone to hear. The influencer's facade just crumbled, and the guests turned against her. It was so satisfying to watch. I just sat there, listening to everything. The influencer left, feeling humiliated and exposed. At that moment, I knew I had done the right thing. To answer a few questions, my husband and I have been together for over a decade. We have always had a strong relationship, and this was the first major issue we faced. The influencer's initial contact with me seemed friendly, and I genuinely thought we could be friends. The message I found on my husband's phone was an invitation for a yoga class. The coffee meeting with the influencer was meant to gather information, and I tried to act supportive to get her to open up. I did not feel guilty about the confrontation party because I believed it was necessary to protect my family. Am I the idiot for calling 911 when my boyfriend's family refused to get him medical help? My boyfriend, who is 26 years old, and I, who am 23 years old, have been together for almost 2 years, and we've talked about our futures and spending the rest of our lives together. He's a sweet and caring person, truly one of the best people I've met in my life. I know that he really values his family, and I have always gotten along with his family until now. These past few weeks, my boyfriend was going through a life-threatening situation where he had to get emergency surgery. His symptoms were progressively worsening, and I would tell his family that he needed to go to the hospital and that I could take him. I even begged them and told them that I would help them with any financial problems if that was the issue. All of the times that I brought it up, I was told no, with barely any explanation. There was one day he fainted, and I called 911, even though his mom told me not to. The emergency medical technicians came and checked his vitals, but my boyfriend and his family denied a ride to the hospital. They waited almost 2 weeks to get him to a neurologist. When I drove him to the neurologist, they didn't do anything but tell us to take him to the emergency room. He was brought in and had emergency surgery the next day to remove tumors. The few weeks prior, the only contact I've been able to have for updates about my boyfriend were his nephew and brother, since his parents and I don't speak the same language. Both his nephew, who is 19 years old, and brother, who is 36 years old, have ignored me whenever I would ask about my boyfriend. His sister, who is 38 years old, lives in a different country and would send me strange texts telling me not to cry in front of my boyfriend and to not tell him about his problems or going to the hospital. Before his surgery, she also texted me saying, "You don't know what's going to happen," and that surgery is risky. At this point, I went off and told her, what other option does he have besides this? And if they thought it was normal for a 26-year-old man that used to be fully functional to turn into a person that couldn't walk and could barely write his own name. She never responded to my texts, but I guess she told my boyfriend's mom because he asked me about it a few days after he got out of surgery. I didn't want to talk about it with him at the time because I wanted him to focus on recovering and not stressing out, but he wanted to know. I told him everything, from them ignoring me, his sister sending me strange texts, and their refusal to get him help. He said he understood my side of the story, but still wanted me to apologize to his family. He emphasized to me that his family is everything to him, and I am too. But it makes it hard for him to date me if his family doesn't like me. He said that they felt I was too pushy about taking him to the hospital. I told him that I'm obviously going to be angry because this was an emergency, and they waited too long to get him medical help, and that he could have died. I feel like he's always going to put his family first and doesn't really understand how I feel. He mentioned that we should take a break in our relationship after he gets discharged, not because he wants to, but because his mom wants him to. He said he doesn't want to lose me, and I don't want to lose him, but I'm not sure if I can be with someone who will never defend me or put me first. Any advice? I appreciate it. Now for a few comments before the update. Comment 1. His family will be the death of him, and he seems fine with that. They expect you to apologize for saving his life by calling 911. Do they have a prejudice against doctors and hospitals? Are they crazy anti-vaccine advocates? He sounds as irrational as they do. You should probably let this one go. Comment 2. You tried, you did the right thing, but some people don't want that. I don't know what you can do other than hope someday to meet someone who appreciates you and has a healthier sense of self-preservation. Now, for the update. It's been just over 2 days since he suggested a break. I spent those days trying not to freak out, just thinking and waiting for his call or text. I know it sounds dramatic, but things weren't great between us before this. I was just scared that this was it, that he was done with me. Finally, I got a text from him asking to meet at a diner near his house. I was surprised he even wanted to meet me after everything. I showed up at the diner and sat in a booth, trying not to look like a total wreck. I ordered a coffee and felt my stomach drop when I saw his family there at a nearby table. Like, talk about a buzzkill. He came over, and I couldn't help but notice how uncomfortable he looked. He was avoiding eye contact like he was in a game of dodgeball or something. We both ordered coffee, and he seemed so distracted, glancing at his family every 2 seconds. I mean, how was I supposed to have this serious conversation with his parents practically watching us? I asked him directly about the break, and he hesitated before speaking, which made my heart race. He mentioned that his mother is worried about his health and our relationship, and I had to stop myself from rolling my eyes. He said his mom thinks he needs to focus on healing first. I wanted to scream, what about our relationship though? Like, we were in an emergency, and he was fine with us then, right? Then I noticed his sister just staring at us from across the diner. I was like, hello, do you want a front row seat to our conversation too? She made this comment about how some relationships just can't survive tough times, and I felt my blood boil. I pointed out that we've been together for nearly 2 years, so what does she know? He countered that he loves me, but feels all this pressure from his family to prioritize them, and I just wanted to pull my hair out. I asked him if he really wanted to take a break, and he just shrugged like it was no big deal. I suggested we talk it out, but his eyes darted back to his family like he was a puppy looking for approval. He told me he didn't want to hurt me, but needed time to think. As we finished our coffee, his family came over to our table. His mother offered this forced smile and asked how his recovery was going. She then mentioned a family dinner planned for the weekend and insisted that he should focus on family and not worry about our relationship. He nodded like the good little son he is, caught between them and me. I felt like I was disappearing right there in that booth. I decided to leave the diner, feeling so dismissed. As I walked out, I heard his mother make some comment about how he needs to choose wisely. Like, what a way to make a girl feel special. He called out to me, but I just kept walking. Over the next few days, I avoided texting him first. I had to make a point, right? He finally called me later that week, asking to meet again. He was like, let's meet at a local coffee shop. And I was like, okay, but the atmosphere felt so tense. He mentioned his family's plans for a big Thanksgiving gathering, and I felt my stomach drop again. He suggested we both come, and I was like, no way. I can't be this little puzzle piece for his family to figure out. During our conversation, his sister texted him, asking if he was okay. He showed me the message, looking all conflicted, but he didn't reply. I could tell he was struggling, and I felt bad for being so selfish, but I couldn't help it. He finally said he didn't want to hurt anyone, including his family or me. I told him I couldn't wait around indefinitely for him to figure things out. He agreed, but said he needed to do this on his own. To answer a few questions, my boyfriend's family has always been close-knit, and he often prioritizes them. His mother is especially influential in his life, which has caused issues in our relationship before. We had a serious conversation about our future, and he admitted that he wants to be with me but feels immense pressure from his family. He suggested we continue our relationship, but take things more slowly for now. I hope we can work through this, but I'm unsure if his family will ever fully accept me. Am I the idiot for wanting to dump my fiancé after finding out he's $50,000 in debt? My partner and I have been together for over 6 years, off and on a few times when we were younger. We met when I was 18 and he was 25. We are now both turning 26 and 33 this fall. I used to think he had his life together because I was living in the house he bought back in 2019, and we had roommates to help pay the rent. He was a bartender and worked in real estate, tried starting his own business, and it just didn't work out. He used to take me on great vacations costing about $5,000 to $6,000 each, and we would have lots of fun together. I thought he had the money to take me. He never bought me fancy gifts until recently, and even then the most extravagant thing I've ever received is a $300 necklace, minus my engagement ring. We bought a second house in my name because I knew that a business deal went bad, and he claimed debt relief. But I was under the impression it was only about $30,000. Our couples counselor has repeatedly asked us to work on combining finances, understanding each other's budget very clearly, and being transparent. He is partially open about it, but never completely, until this last week. We both lost our jobs in the last few weeks, and because of that, I demanded the information. Well, come to find out, he has just over $50,000 in credit card debt. Now granted, I have debt too. $6,000 from a surgery and a few thousand from home renovation expenses, but I have the income to pay it off and still have a small nest egg to cover myself. He said he's not even making more than minimum payments. How will this ever get resolved? I am concerned because he is not more established in his career at 33. I feel like he should be doing better than me, and I am only 25. I worked very hard and did not have a silver spoon in my mouth, go to college on my parents' dime, or have my bills paid ever. I was independent at 17 and have been since. I'm still trying to get my degree by going to classes in the evenings after my 9-to-5 job in my field, which is tech user experience design. To add to this, his own parents went bankrupt a few times in their lives, and his dad spent his entire trust fund before he even got to college, which ruined his family. His dad never really had a career, drive, or ambition. I worry that he did not observe certain behaviors growing up, and as a result, he is soft and inexperienced with real life. They sheltered him for as long as possible. Well, his mom did at least, paying his rent and giving him money until he was about 25 or 26. We're just very different. I see how annoyed he gets when I ask him to do manly things like build furniture, help with the yard, or handle heavy-duty jobs with tools and car maintenance. Is breaking off the engagement and telling him to move back into his home with roommates until he can fix his debts a mature response to this? I was hoping to get married and have a certain standard of living, being able to travel often and have a home worth over $800,000 to $1.5 million to raise my kids in. I am hurt and starting to think the life I envisioned for us may not happen. I don't want to make it all about money, but times are tough. And I was raised traditionally, where my dad provided for my mom, and she raised my brother and me. I want the same opportunity for myself, and I feel like my clock is ticking. Should I just settle and help him pay off his debts, accepting that this is the situation and staying with him? Or should I try to detach, take steps back, and live separately until he can get a grip on his financial situation? Now for a few comments before the update. Comment 1. Yeah, he's not compatible with you. He's spending money he doesn't have since his first dollar. He is also getting mad at normal requests. I'm sure you'll find other red flags you've ignored, like going after a teenager who just lost her family and dazzling her with gifts on that list. Send him home and block his number. Comment 2. Until he recovers, no. Get out now. If he's willing to go into that much debt for a new car and to impress you, just leave. He's been lying to you, and God knows what will pop up in the future. It's possible he'll change down the line, but don't wait around for something that might never happen. Now for the update, I'm back with an update on my partner and his financial situation. So much has happened, and I feel like I'm in a completely different place than I was a few months ago. My partner has been slowly working on his finances, and I'm cautiously optimistic about it. After being unemployed for a while, he found a new job with a decent salary. It was a huge relief, not just for him, but for both of us, honestly. I could see he was more motivated to tackle his debts, and he was taking on more responsibilities around the house, which was a nice change. I thought we should celebrate his new job, so I surprised him with a small dinner at our favorite Italian restaurant. We had a great time, and he casually mentioned his plan to tackle his debt more aggressively. I was glad to hear him talk about it, but I didn't press for details because I thought he would share more when he was ready. A week later, we went to my parents' house for a summer barbecue. My partner was invited, and everyone was excited to see him. My dad had been asking about him a lot, and I could see my parents were trying to be supportive. At the barbecue, my dad asked my partner about his job and future plans. My partner confidently shared the details of his new job, but he avoided discussing his debt. I noticed my dad seemed skeptical and exchanged glances with my mom, but I tried to brush it off. Later that evening, I overheard my parents talking privately in the kitchen. They were discussing their concerns about my partner's financial situation and how it might affect me. I wanted to join the conversation, but felt like I was eavesdropping, so I stayed quiet. A few days later, we attended a friend's wedding together. My partner seemed distant and distracted throughout the event, which was unusual for him. I could tell something was off, but I didn't want to ruin the wedding atmosphere by asking. Later, I found him at the bar, talking with another guest about investments. I joined them, and my partner was discussing some risky financial moves. I didn't want to unalive his vibe, but I had to voice my concerns. After the wedding, we had a heated discussion about it. He dismissed my concerns, claiming he was just trying to plan for the future. I felt so frustrated. A week later, we went on a short camping trip to reconnect. We needed some time away from everything. During the trip, my partner received a call from a debt collector, which ruined the mood. I could see the panic in his eyes, and it made me anxious too. He tried to brush it off, saying it was just a misunderstanding and would be resolved. I wanted to believe him, but I couldn't shake the feeling. When we got home, he suggested we take a trip to a tropical destination. For a second, I was excited, but then I remembered our financial situation. We had a tense discussion where I firmly stated we couldn't afford luxury vacations right now. I could see he was getting defensive, insisting he needed a break to recharge. This escalated into a serious argument about our priorities and future plans. We both needed to cool off after that. A few days of silence passed, and I wasn't sure where we stood. Then, my partner surprised me with a detailed plan to pay off his debts. He laid out a budget and timelines, showing how he intended to stick to it. I was shocked, but in a good way. He also suggested we attend a financial seminar together. I was hesitant at first, but I agreed. The seminar opened up new discussions about financial literacy and planning. I realized how little I knew about certain things, and it was eye-opening for both of us. A month later, we celebrated my partner's first debt payment milestone. It wasn't a huge amount, but it was a start. We hosted a small dinner party with friends to celebrate his progress. It felt good to share the news with our friends. We ended the night discussing future plans, and my partner proposed that we set shared financial goals. It was a huge step for us, and I felt relieved that we were finally on the same page. I'm still trying to figure out what all of this means for us, but I can see that my partner is committed to improving his financial situation. And that matters a lot to me. Things still aren't perfect, but we're working on it together, and that's what counts. Edit. Things have improved quite a bit since my last update. My partner has been actively working on his finances and has made significant progress. He found a stable job and is now more responsible around the house. We celebrated his small debt milestone with friends, and he suggested we set joint financial goals, which I agreed to. Attending a financial seminar together was beneficial, and it sparked important discussions about our future. I'm hopeful about moving forward together. If you liked this video, you'll probably like these too. Also, while you're here, please consider subscribing. It's your support that keeps this channel alive and allows me to make better and longer videos. Have a great day.